Hey ladies, welcome to the She Did podcast. Today, Hannah and Cindy are going to be discussing what is Give Your Fish. And we're going to be sharing some stories from the field about times we and people around us have given their fish and seen God's multiplication. Thanks for watching today. Please like, share, and follow. And thanks for joining the She Did podcast. Hey ladies, thanks for joining us at the She Did podcast. Today, Cindy and I are going to be discussing what is Give Your Fish. If you've watched the first few episodes, you've heard us talk about Give Your Fish a little bit. But today we're really going to dive into that, and we're going to look at some stories from the field of people giving their fish and us seeing the multiplication from God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. I'm excited.
Me too. So Give Your Fish is really an idea that came to us along with our name at Fish Company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we're looking in the Bible. We're seeing Jesus feed the 5,000. And how did that connection happen?
Well, I think really early on, we knew that we were not equipped for what God was asking us to do. And so as we're thinking of names for our ministry, it was really easy to equate what we were doing with the little boy in the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 plus.
Yeah.
Where he just brought what he had in his hands to Jesus, the loaves and the fish. It was just his lunch. And then through that, Jesus did the miracles or did that miracle. And so we kind of like that. We just feel like what we're doing is just kind of bringing our fish to Jesus, saying, help us.
We're not equipped.
Yeah, we're not equipped. So that's where it came from.
Yeah. And I think there's so many times throughout Fish Company, particularly earlier on, but still it happens all the time.
All the time.
Where we're going, I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not a website maker. I have this little tiny bit of knowledge of or this little tiny vision of how I think God's telling us it should go. And then I'm just gonna do the research and show up and then just pray that God does the miracle, because Hannah by herself could not make the website work.
Yeah, I think out of necessity, because of how we run Fish Company, we had to become very self-sufficient. If you guys have listened to our prior podcast, you know that we are, God called us very early on to give 100%, which means you don't have money to pay people to teach you how to do what you need to learn how to do. So even from the very beginning, I think back to when we didn't really know how to do a 501c3, and there's lots of places on the internet that say that they give free help to 501c3s, but then when you dig a little deeper, there's usually some cost attached to it. And we needed to find some totally free things, and there's not a lot of people out there that are willing to give away things for free. So a lot of the things that most businesses would say, we've set aside this amount of money to incorporate or figure out how to do a 501c3 or figure out a website. We've had to become very creative and again bring our little tiny bit of knowledge to Jesus and say, help us figure out how to do that. And that involves everything from starting our 501c3, which we did on our own thanks to some advice from a good friend, to building a website, which you really had to learn how to do, right?
Yeah. Well, and so often I just feel like that little boy in everything, right? In every area of ministry, going, okay, this is what I have to give. I have fish and loaves of bread. I have this lunch that would have fed this poor little boy.
Yeah.
And Jesus brings it out. Jesus does the miracle. Jesus shows up, or Jesus brings the right training, or this thing that I learned in high school on outdated technology. All of a sudden I'm going, I think that one HTML class I took in high school will translate to me making this page look way cuter than.
Well, I think about for our website, so how cool it was that you had a little bit of knowledge, right? And how I think about stepping out of the boat, where God says, okay, you take that one step towards me, and then don't worry, I'll be right there to catch you.
Yeah.
And how you took your little bit of knowledge, and then we went to our good friend Mindy Bowman, and Mindy really helped us, like, kind of like build our website from there, and how God planted people within our lives that were the hands and feet of Jesus to us.
Yeah.
So we just kind of had to step out a little bit and do our part.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So there have been so many times throughout Fish Company's history where we've seen this happen. And so today's session is really going to be a storytelling session. And so, because we just want to, if we want you to leave today knowing that no matter what your fish and loaves are,
yeah,
if you surrender it to God and allow Him to do the multiplication, it's going to be way bigger, way better than you can imagine.
Absolutely.
And so we're just going to share some stories throughout Fish Company's history about times when either we or other people have given their fish. So I'm actually going to start with probably one of my favorite stories Fish Company has.
Okay.
So back about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, maybe more now, I don't know. I worked at a college, a Christian college, and we took a missions trip as a school. And on this missions trip to Haiti, I met a woman named Madame Bernay because us, Fish Company, alongside some of my students, had fundraised because we knew she was wanting some sewing machines, treadle, because in Haiti they don't have a lot of electricity, so she had to get the treadle machines. So we had fundraised and we had bought her, I don't know, I think 2 treadle machines, and then Fish Company had donated, I don't know, 3, I think, large check-sized duffel bags of fabric.
Yeah.
To this woman who we really didn't know much about. Our friend who was the missionary there had just said, hey, she loves sewing. She's thinking about starting a sewing school, and she could use these. Fish Company had the means to help someone start a sewing school. We prayed about it. God said yes. So we took our fish and our loaves of some cash to help buy these sewing machines and these duffel bags. And I met Madame Bernay. Well, I come home. I'm talking to my mom about the experience I had. And we go and have lunch with our friend Matt, who's the missionary there. And he's like, I think Cindy needs to go to Haiti. I think you guys need to sit down with Madame Bernay and Pastor Simeon. And I think you're supposed to do more with them. And so we did. Like literally 2 weeks later, I think 2?
Yeah, it was about 2 weeks later. We were on a plane going to Haiti. It was my first time. I think it was maybe your third?
Third or fourth, yeah.
I don't know. To a country we didn't know, to people we didn't really know well, but we just knew that God had a plan for us there, and so we were on our way. So
yeah. So okay, so we sit down and we're talking to Madame Bernay and Pastor Simeon, and they're little. It's concrete. It's like not stucco, like concrete block house.
Yeah.
And it's like the entry room and then one other room.
Yes.
At the time.
Yeah. Basically, it's a 2-room house. There are no solid windows or doors. There was like a piece of fabric curtain in front of the door, but this is where they lived. But this was also where Madame Brunet did her sewing. Yeah. And at the time, her sewing was her what we thought was her sewing was she would mend. She was a cook at a local school, and she would sew and mend the clothes for the kids at the school.
Yeah.
So
we sit down, we start talking to them, and just hearing about their life story and hearing about what their passions are, what they have. And Pastor Simeon, or at the time he wasn't pastor yet.
Right.
Simeon starts like weeping up a little bit, which is very rare for a man, particularly in Haiti, right? To start get like weepy teared. And he's telling us about how
so I'll take
it. Go for it.
So first of all, when we walked into their house, in the corner, Madame Brunet had her sewing machine set up, and right next to it was her open Bible. And you could just tell by the looks of this Bible that it was well used, it was well loved. And it was just sitting there, and the sun was shining through the opening of the window without the glass.
Yeah.
And it was just such a beautiful picture. And I think we knew even then that we were supposed to be a part of their story, a part of the what was next. But then, like Hannah said, Simeon teared up a little bit, and as he shared some of their story, and um, we had a translator there. Our good friend Daniel was translating, and Simeon kind of reaches for my hand, and he wants to lead me out into their yard, and so we go back out into like this kind of partially walled in area.
Yeah, it's like a what are those
Retaining wall?
retaining wall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're on the side of a mountain, so there's a retaining wall kind of coming down, and in this area there was a great big pile of cement blocks. And then there was another pile of what I thought was just dirt at the time. And Pastor Simeon starts explaining to us that 10 years prior to when we were there, just after the earthquake in 2010, horrible, horrible earthquake in Haiti that just decimated, I mean, building after building after building. And in Haiti, even to this day, you walk down the streets and there may be just like a pile of rubble.
Yeah.
And then maybe there's a hut, and then maybe there's another building, and then there's two more piles of rubble. And so much of the damage, even from the earthquake, is there still today. But Simeon at the time would walk down the mountain and go to his work, and then walk back up the mountain and go home. And after the earthquake, on his way back home from work every day, he would either pick up a cement block from the rubble or a bucket of debris.
Which they use for mortar.
Yeah, for mortar, and carry it up the mountain. And he had been stacking them in his backyard because their dream was to start a sewing school, and God told them that one day someone would come that would help them build the sewing school.
Yeah, so Simeon actually grew up on an island just off the coast of Haiti called Labadie, and he was living there as a young man.
Yeah.
And one day God spoke to him and told him that he needed to go to the mainland because he was going to marry a woman who would run a sewing school one day.
Oh, yeah.
And he did. He moved to the mainland. He met Madame Bernay, who was a seamstress. They fell in love. They got married. They had children. And then years later, it's when we met him.
Yeah.
And so just God's, right, he told Pastor Simeon as a young man that we would come.
Yeah.
And we were just showing up going, we have this fish to give. We have supplies to fill a sewing school. We have the capability of fundraising to help you get this building.
Yeah.
And so here we are, whatever, now they've been an active school for about 5 years now, I think, right?
5 or 6 years, yeah.
They graduate, I think, 3 classes a year. We send them barrels as much as we can. We have fully stocked them with everything they need to run a sewing school. And they're a fully fledged commissioned sewing school in Haiti.
Yeah. Well, one of the thinking back to how we even got these supplies is an amazing thing about Fish Company is as soon as our friends kind of heard that we were donating all of our efforts, they started bringing their sewing supplies to us.
Yeah.
And then something really unique started happening. Friends of ours whose moms, maybe who had been actors working as seamstresses or sewing or whatever, as they passed away, they didn't know what to do with these amazing, all these sewing supplies. So people started like donating, almost like willing their stuff to us. And it was just this beautiful thing because you think, what am I going to do with this? Like a complete sewing thing, supplies for women.
Yeah.
And so we had, prior to this trip, a lady who had actually run a quilt. She ran a quilt store. She had passed away, and my mom and I had been driving past their house, and we saw that there was a yard sale. And we went into the yard sale, and the man had some boxes of fabric kind of out in the yard. And my mom was right away going, "Oh, Grandma," was saying, "Oh, I want those boxes. I'll take those, whatever you're charging for them." And the gentleman said, "What are you doing with these?" And I remember saying to him, "I don't really know what we would do with all this, but I know that God is calling us to help someone somehow, and we have a ministry called Fish Company." And then I told him about Fish Company, and he, again, this was so kind of foreshadowing, I guess, took me by the hand, walked me into his house, and in his house were the supplies to literally start a quilting shop. And he said, "Tell me what you would do with this if you had all this? And I said, well, whatever God asked us to do with it. And he literally gave us that day thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of notions and material and thread and crazy, crazy boxes of fabric. And it was just God, again, provided for that need before we needed it even.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love how each Give Your Fish story is actually like a collection of Give Your Fish stories. So it's,
oh yeah,
when God does the miracle, God doesn't need us to do this miracle. He invites us in to do these miracles. But when I show up with my fish and the loaves and you show up with your fish and your loaves, then God is able to do these huge miracles with our willingness to obey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Give Your Fish story?
That's got to be.
That's one of our top.
A top one. I think probably one of my other ones is the bus.
Yes.
Which was so cool. So we were trying to figure out how to get, in starting the sewing school, we were trying to figure out how do we get all this stuff over to Haiti? Because we can ship barrels fairly easily, but shipping like industrial sewing machines and that kind of equipment,
sergers and desks and
solar lighting, and we really wanted to provide everything that Madame Brunet felt like she needed to start her sewing school. And we had most of the stuff, but we're trying to figure out how to get it over there. And I read about some crazy loophole where at the time, if you shipped a vehicle, you could, you didn't have to pay you paid for the footprint of the vehicle on the ship, not each item or the weight of the item. And so it just so happened that near us is a bus company, a company that sells used buses.
Like school buses.
School buses.
Full school buses.
Full school buses. So we thought, what if we were able to raise the funds to get a bus, fill the bus with all the supplies that we need, and then our orphanage in Haiti would have a bus to drive the kids around. And so I love this. Some friends of ours just literally started jumping on that, and our good friend Sierra said
she was a maniac with it.
I know,
like emailing everybody.
So Sierra was like, "Let me help you.
Yeah.
Let's start with raising the funds for the bus, and let's go from there."
Mm-hmm.
And so, so she came up with this plan for people to buy a seat on the bus. And so friends of ours would go in and into this website and purchase like a seat on the bus. And that's how we funded the bus. And it was, I mean, it seemed like just a couple months. It was like done. And then some other friends of ours who run a ministry called Schools for Haiti had tons of supplies.
Yeah.
And they had school supplies that they were shipping over. And they said, hey, give us some room on your bus and we'll give you guys a bunch of these supplies for your sewing school. So we literally packed this bus with literally everything from the smallest needle to buttons to
fabric to sergers, solar lights,
desks, chairs. So we packed the bus, we shipped it over, and we were able to get all of our supplies for our sewing school. We were able to send over a bunch of supplies for our friends at Schools for Haiti. And then we were able also to provide this bus that ended up being used not just for our orphanage, but our friends at Schools from Haiti were able to use the bus to, if the students needed to go someplace or so.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is, so Madame Bernay and Pastor Semi in their house, like we said earlier, started out as like basically a 2-room, not 2-bedroom, just 2-room block building. And when we added the sewing school, we also added in a big open room sewing school. We added in an office for the administration for the sewing school, a large storage closet, and a bathroom.
Yeah.
And so the footprint of their home grew.
Absolutely.
And we were able to bless their family with the bathroom and the sewing school. We were able to give them the building for the sewing school. We were able to fill it, and then they stepped in and took their fish of running it. And now, like we said, I think we've had 3 classes for 5 years.
Yeah.
yeah, the bus story was really cool because, again, so many people came together. So many people contributed, donated,
Yeah.
financial, physical. We had a full day of people going around with the bus with us, loading it up, volunteers. And that was just such a fun day. It was just a really cool give your fish
Yeah.
moment.
It was really cool too how God provided exactly what we needed. For instance, prior to that it was just a loophole that we were able to ship the bus then.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, you couldn't do that. You had to pay per pound. And then actually shortly after we shipped the bus, they switched it back to paying by the barrel or by the pound. And you then had to, well, a part of it too was you didn't have to declare, when it came into the country of Haiti, you didn't have to declare.
That was the biggest thing.
That was the biggest thing.
The value of everything in the vehicle, but that changed.
That changed right after that.
Right after. That's part of the reason why it got stuck in port for a while, because it changed while it was in port.
Yes.
And we ended up having to work with someone to get some special inspections done because it changed while we were in the middle of it being in the inspection port. So just really God's timing and all of that too.
Yeah.
Like there was this perfect window where it worked.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
So another give your fish story that just it's more recent is when I was in South Africa this past year, actually this time last year. I was working with a ministry called Musa Winkosi, which was a children's home, and it was pretty far out in Zulu territory, and I think we had 30 kids living there, give or take a few. And our youngest was 5, and our oldest was like 22, I think. And they had this playground on site, but it was really in disrepair. It was falling, not in good shape. I mean, obviously the money that came in to the children's home had to go to feeding the kids, had to go to clothing the kids, had to go to paying staff. And so really the playground had become not a priority. Well, me and there were 4 other younger German missionary girls there just were really concerned about the freedom of the kids, the fun the kids were having. And so we decided as a group we would fundraise, especially us, just privately us, to redo the playground. So we did. We drew up plans. We fundraised. I think we got $6,000. And we went and got donations from around town, and we built this dragon that the kids can climb on out of used tires. We built a little race car the kids can sit in out of used tires. A tire climbing thing. We made tire swings. We made so we made all these things to add on to the existing structure, which the existing structure itself was pretty solid. We had to get some nails to screw some parts down. But again, I had some experience in building and planning, and obviously fundraising, and these girls really were passionate, and they painted the details on the dragons, and they were so passionate, and they shared it on their social media, and it was really cool to see us come together. And it was really an opportunity too for me not only to use some skills I have, but to teach these younger women who were like 18, 19, 20, I think. How does it look for them to get their fish? What skills do they have? Even as young women, they have these skills they can bring to the table and make a big difference in this children's home.
Yeah. I love in that story how God used the people, people from America and people from Germany and people from South Africa, the 3 countries to come together to build that project. And that's what he does, right? That's what he does with Fish Company. It's like you bring your fish, you bring a loaf, you bring the basket, and together we're going to make the miracle. And
yeah, because the local tire shop, we went and spoke to them, and they donated all the tires for free.
Yeah.
And the local hardware store, we went in and they gave us a discount. And so it was really cool to see, like you said, these South Africans go, that's the thing I can get behind. Let me give you a discount. Let me give us for free. Let us lend a hand. Our church we were attending, we had volunteers show up from our church and help us. It was really cool.
Yeah, it makes me think of actually the birthday party, which I love. I
loved the birthday party.
So at Fish Company, most of what we do is very practical.
Yeah.
Right. We raise funds to build buildings, to build orphanages or hope centers or sewing schools, and then after that, we problem solve with the local people to help them to become self-sustaining. So it's things like putting in wells and chicken farms and gardens and things like that, which I love. I love them deeply, but sometimes we want to just do something just for fun for the kids. And so one of our very early mission trips to Haiti, pretty early, after we had partnered with foundations, we decided we wanted to give them a birthday party, just like this big birthday party for all the kids. And one of the things that if you travel on a trip with us, a missions trip, you'll find is that we want people to
have buy-in.
We want the people who go with us to be a part of planning our trip and figuring out what their fish is, so that we're not just telling them, okay, you're going to go to Haiti, and since you know about construction, you're going to be building the chicken coop. We really want to figure out what God is calling them to do. So in this birthday party, very early on, we gave different people on our team roles,
decorations and
like
snacks,
you're in charge of the birthday cake,
the goodie bag.
Yeah. And our team just went to town.
They showed up. We got a piñata.
Yeah.
we took a piñata to Haiti, y'all. Like, I don't know if you realize that's like, I don't know, it's like crazy because they've never seen a piñata before.
They've never seen a piñata. And I remember they took the kids out of the orphanage, and we set up this area with a bunch of little chairs and sat each child down. And as we sat them down, everyone had adopted a child to kind of buy the gifts for. And we had practical gifts. We had new shoes for everybody. But we also had a couple of fun things. And I remember you setting the gifts in Natasha's lap.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell about that?
Yeah. So Natasha was a little girl that I was trying for a while to adopt, and it didn't work out because of international stuff. But I love her dearly. And so I sat the gift in her lap, and she just started like patting the gift, like the wrapping of the gift, like that was the present. The present was this beautiful box.
Yeah.
And I had to like literally show her, like, no, look, you open it.
Yeah.
And she had never seen like a gift wrapped present before. I don't know if you ever gotten a present before.
I don't think so.
But I mean, she got a dolly just for her, and she got shoes just for her, and these children's homes where everything is communal.
Yes.
For them to have a thing that was just theirs was so special.
Yeah.
And like, you know, even a little later, so they opened the first present. They were all, I mean, Natasha particularly spoke to my heart because I love that child so much. But like all of them were just like infatuated with the wrapping. And then they opened the wrapping and the packaging of whatever the
boxes
the box that their Spider-Man action figure was in was just like, whoa. And so just seeing each level of them appreciating and getting a gift was so sweet.
Yeah. That was something really special to us. Again, sometimes you can kind of get caught up in this mode of but we've got to create a home for them. We've got to put a roof over their head, and of course with God's help. And sometimes it's so sweet to just sit back and take in those sweet moments and realize that these are children. These are children of God, just like kids here in America. They're kids that run and play, and we just have fallen so in love with so many of the kids at our projects. So.
Yeah. I remember during that birthday party, they hadn't really had cake before.
Yeah.
So we got them a birthday cake. So it wasn't anybody in particular's birthday. We had just found out that they really hadn't had a birthday party before. And we were like, we're gonna do a birthday party. We're gonna do it big.
Yeah.
And so we did. We did the birthday games. We did the piñata. We did they each got a goodie bag. They each got presents. They got to unwrap. They got a birthday cake. And seeing these little children try birthday cake for the first time was I can't even explain it. It was so cute.
It was so precious.
It was so sweet. And that's a memory, that whole experience was a memory those kids are going to get to have for their whole lives.
Yeah. I love that these things too, those moments are not just memory for those kids, they're memories for us. I mean, so many people on I looked around at our team and everyone was just in tears, and you're just reminded in those moments. It's kind of like the love that God has for us, right? That God loves us so much that he wants every single corner of our heart to be his, and he wants us to have all the desires of our hearts. And it's kind of like you're standing there, and I don't know who got the bigger gift, the children who experienced it, or us where we got to witness this and just in that moment be such a part of this deep, intense love. It was just amazing. So
yeah. So I think maybe one of our last stories we'll share today is the Donna. So was it that same trip, or was it the next trip that Donna went with us?
It was the next trip that Donna went with us, I think.
So the next large team trip we took one of our really good friends, Donna DeVivo, with us. And we had been discussing ways with Mackenzie, the woman who runs Foundations Children's Home, how do we invest into your ministry?
Yeah.
And so we were sitting off in a corner, kind of us and Mackenzie having a conversation with our translator, because Mackenzie speaks English, but sometimes in negotiations it helps to have a translator and to help with the minute details. And so the four of us are standing around having a conversation, and Donna walks up, sassy from New York Donna. What are you guys talking about? And so we're sharing a little bit that we've been discussing the idea of purchasing a new piece of land.
Yeah.
And we're discussing the price. We're discussing what that would look like. And what was the price? Do you remember?
I don't remember the exact price. I want to say 15,000. Does that sound right?
I thought it was more like 4, but
no, it was more than that.
Okay.
But so in our problem solving, what we call is making these projects self-sustainable. Sometimes it might involve building a chicken coop, but sometimes it involves expansion. So in this particular case, we had determined with Mackenzie that the best way to help them was to buy an additional piece of property to put a larger garden on, so that, because she has a lot of kids there, a lot of people to feed and take care of. So the gentleman next to her had decided to sell his piece of property. It's not easy to do in Haiti. And so we were negotiating then, or we were talking about what we would be willing to pay for it. And so do you want to take it from there?
So Donna then goes, I'll pay for it. And we were like, what? Donna, hold on. And
she just said God just spoke to her in that moment and said, you're the one.
Yeah.
You're the one. You're supposed to provide the funding for this piece of property. And we're sitting here thinking, okay, we're just start to dip our toe in the water. Do we want to buy this or whatever? And she's like, I'll pay for it. I'll do this. This was her first mission trip.
Yeah.
First experience of any type. She was an amazing woman. She owned her own business, but she had just started her own business.
Yeah. But she wasn't even really sure how she was going to.
She had no idea how she was going to pay for it.
She just knew that God said, do it. And she said, I'll do it.
And she said, just walked forward in that moment in the obedience.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, all right. So we said, let's pray about this. And we did. And she said, I still want to do it. So we started negotiations for this piece of property. Yeah. And so, first of all, we were able to negotiate. Mackenzie herself is an amazing negotiator. She was able to negotiate down the piece of property to 11,000, something like that. Okay. And so we go home, fly home, and we're saying, okay, Mackenzie in Haiti's trying to figure out how to. You have to get every person in the family has to sign off on a piece of property. So Mackenzie is figuring out how to get the deed. We're here. Donna's figuring out. She's thinking, okay, now I've got to start raising funds to do this, or sell some stock or something. And it was right before Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Remember?
Yeah.
And so Donna's family every year did this
big
box where you buy the
buy the blocks. You bid on the blocks or whatever.
Yeah. And so Donna and Donna was, I don't know, 55, 50 at the time.
Yeah.
So she'd done this for years and years and years. And so she had bid on a block that she had actually picked out weeks before. And so the Super Bowl was the next week, and it ends up she wins, and she wins like almost I think
it was like 10,000, wasn't it?
$10,000
Something crazy.
in a family Super Bowl block thing. But it had gone on for so many years that tons of people were involved, and it was the first time that she had won.
Mm-hmm.
And she just literally called me in tears, and she's like, God provided. I said yes, and God provided, that was one of our themes for our trip, where we talked about how it's the obedience of just saying yes, of just taking that first step and let God worry about where the answer is going to come from, or how the multiplication is going to come. So she goes home, and literally the next week, God provides, and she wins this block on this Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And such a beautiful story. Sad thing, that next year, our friend actually passed away very unexpectedly, suddenly. But the beautiful story is that in the orphanage now, there is this beautiful mango tree that is planted in honor of Miss Donna, who the children just adored and loved. And through this whole thing, we've become very close with Donna's family.
Yeah.
And it's just such a beautiful picture of God taking your obedience and turning it into the most beautiful thing.
Yeah, it really is. All right, do you have any other give your fish stories you want to share for today?
I mean, there's a million of them, but maybe we'll save them for
we got to have more content for next episode. Well, that's what giving your fish looks like. So if you think that God is asking you if you got that thing that God's asking you to step out of the boat onto the water with, that little lunch that you're going, what is this even going to do? That moment of holding back the obedience that you know God is asking you. I mean, just listen to the stories of what happens when you surrender that to Jesus and let him do the multiplication.
Yeah, I agree. Just don't be afraid to say yes. Say yes. If it's God's voice, if God is asking, say yes and let him worry about the multiplication. That little boy didn't have to worry about how he was going to feed the 5,000 plus. Jesus already knew the answer. He was just waiting for someone to give their fish.
Yep. Well, thanks for joining us today. Please tune in 2 Wednesdays, and thanks for joining the She Did podcast. All right, I'm going to do an extra real quick.
Okay.
Will you see if I'm still in frame when I sit up like this?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for joining us today on the She Did podcast. If you are looking for having speakers at your church, your nonprofit, your event, Hannah and Cindy'd love to speak and share with people and women about all the things God's asking us to do and bring you into the empathy to action process. If you are interested in having us to your church or event, you can reach out to us at info@fishcompany.org. And once again, please like, share, and follow. Thanks for joining us.
Okay. Try to refer to us as we instead of Hannah and Cindy, because it sounds weird. You're talking about yourself in the third person.
Okay. I'm trying to get them to know our names.